I shove my shoulder against the swollen door of my new, nearly empty apartment in Austin, Texas, forcing it open as a gust of warm, dusty air rushes inside. The humidity clings to my skin immediately, thick and unfamiliar, carrying the smell of sun-baked concrete and something faintly metallic from the hallway vents. A stack of moving boxes tilts and collapses at my feet, the cardboard bursting open and spilling loose papers across the wooden floor. I drop to my knees, grabbing the papers quickly as they slide across the room, my hands trembling as I try to keep them from blowing toward the open door. The edges flutter and snap against my palms, some already disappearing under the radiator, others catching on the uneven floorboards. My breath comes faster than it should for such a simple task, and I can feel the tightness starting in my chest again, that familiar pressure that's been following me for months. A sudden bark echoes from the hallway outside, sharp and unexpected, freezing me mid-movement. My fingers curl around a paper I've already grabbed twice, and I lift my head slowly, staring at the doorway. The sound hangs in the air for a moment, then fades into the hum of the building's air conditioning. The bark comes again, closer, pulling my attention toward the doorway where a shadow pauses. I can see the outline through the frosted glass panel beside the door, something small and low to the ground, shifting its weight from side to side. My heart pounds harder than it should, caught between the instinct to stand and the strange paralysis keeping me on the floor. The shadow moves again, and I hear the soft scrape of claws against the tile outside, deliberate and slow, as if whatever is out there is deciding whether to come closer or run. I hold my breath as the shadow shifts behind the doorframe, and before I reveal what or who is standing there, let me invite you to stay with me. If stories like mine mean something to you, please subscribe to the channel and leave a comment. Your support helps me share more moments like this one. Now let me take you back to the beginning. My name is Nathan Cole, and I recently moved to Austin, Texas, hoping for a quiet place to land after everything I'd been through. My new apartment is small, barely furnished, with boxes still taped shut, and the silence inside feels heavier than I expected. The walls are off-white and bare, the floors scuffed in places where previous tenants dragged furniture I'll never see, and the single window in the living room looks out over a parking lot that shimmers with heat even in the early evening. I haven't lived in Texas before. I came here because it felt far enough from the life I left behind. No friends, no family, no memories attached to the streets or the skyline. Just distance, just space. Just the possibility of starting over in a place where no one knows my name or what happened. As I set another box down by the wall, the quiet buzz of the empty space highlights a part of me I've been trying hard to ignore. There's something inside me that hasn't settled since I arrived, something restless and raw that no amount of unpacking seems to fix. The truth is, I came to Austin after a divorce that shattered more than just the life I shared with someone. I lost my home, my routines, and the sense of who I was, like someone had turned the volume down on my whole world. The mornings blur into afternoons, and the afternoons stretch into evenings that feel too long and too quiet. Even simple things, like waking up or eating, feel like moving through thick fog. I make coffee and forget to drink it. I open the fridge and stare at the shelves without knowing what I'm looking for. At night, the quiet in the apartment feels sharp, almost echoing, as if the walls remind me of everything that used to fill my life. I lie in bed and listen to the sounds of the building, the pipes groaning, the footsteps upstairs, the distant hum of traffic on the street below, and I wonder how long it takes for a person to feel at home in their own skin again. I spend hours unpacking and repacking the same boxes, trying to give my hands something to do while my chest stays tight. I fold shirts and refold them. I arrange books on a shelf and then take them down again. I tell myself I'm organizing, but really, I'm just moving things around to avoid sitting still. One evening, when the weight on my chest feels heavier than usual, I step outside just to breathe, and that's when everything begins to change. The air is warm and thick, carrying the scent of grilled meat from a neighbor's patio and the faint sweetness of honeysuckle growing along the fence. I lean against the railing outside my door, letting the heat settle over my skin, and for a moment, the tightness loosens just enough for me to take a full breath. That's when I hear it again, the bark, closer now, and followed by the soft shuffle of movement in the hallway behind me. The hallway outside my apartment is dimly lit, the hum of the building's AC echoing softly through the narrow space. The fluorescent lights overhead flicker occasionally, casting uneven shadows on the beige walls, and the air smells faintly of cleaning solution and old carpet. At the far end, a small, muddy dog stands frozen, eyes locked on me as if he's been waiting. His fur is matted, clumped with dirt and something darker that might be oil or dried mud, and one ear bends strangely, flopping to the side in a way that makes him look lopsided and vulnerable. He steps forward cautiously, nose lifting to catch my scent, and I can see his ribs pressing against his sides with each breath. His paws leave faint, dusty prints on the tile as he moves, and his tail hangs low, barely wagging, more a question than a greeting. I crouch down slowly, unsure if he'll run, but he inches closer until his head presses lightly against my knee. The contact is tentative, almost testing, as if he's not sure whether I'll push him away or let him stay. There's no collar, no tag, just trembling ribs and hopeful eyes. His breath comes quick and shallow, and I can feel the warmth of his body through my jeans. The way his whole frame seems to vibrate with exhaustion or fear or something I can't quite name. When he lets out a quiet whine, something deep inside me shifts, almost too subtle to name. It's not dramatic or sudden, just a small loosening in my chest, like a knot that's been tied too tight for too long finally gives a little. I reach out slowly, letting him sniff my hand before I touch him. And when my fingers brush the top of his head, he leans into the contact with a desperation that makes my throat tighten. His fur is rough and dirty under my palm, but he doesn't pull away. He stays there, pressed against my leg, breathing hard and trembling. I don't know how long he's been out here or where he came from, but I know the look in his eyes. I've seen it in the mirror every morning since I moved in. I glance down the hallway, half expecting someone to appear and claim him, but the corridor is empty, silent except for the hum of the AC and the distant sound of a television playing through someone's door. He whines again, softer this time, and shifts his weight so that more of his body leans against me. My hand moves on its own, stroking the top of his head, and I feel the tension in his muscles start to ease. "You lost too?" I hear myself say, my voice rough and unused. He doesn't answer, of course, but his tail flicks once, a small, tentative movement that feels like agreement. I sit there for a long moment, crouched in the hallway with this muddy, nameless dog pressed against my knee, and I realize I'm not thinking about the apartment or the boxes or the weight on my chest. I'm just here, in this moment, with him. Finally, I stand, and he looks up at me with those wide, hopeful eyes, waiting. I don't know what I'm doing, but I push my apartment door open wider and step back, gesturing inside. He hesitates, his paws shifting on the tile, and then he takes a careful step forward, then another, until he crosses the threshold into the apartment. I close the door behind us, and for the first time since I moved in, the space doesn't feel quite so empty. I bring him into the apartment, setting a bowl of water on the floor while he explores cautiously, tail low but wagging. He moves from corner to corner, sniffing the baseboards, the legs of the folding chair I've been using as a table, the edges of the boxes stacked against the wall. His paws tap softly on the wood, a rhythm that fills the silence in a way I didn't know I needed. For the first time since I moved in, the space doesn't feel so painfully silent. His small footsteps echo with life. I watch him drink, his tongue lapping quickly, water splashing onto the floor, and I find myself smiling without meaning to. I give him a quick bath in the bathroom sink, his muddy paws leaving streaks on my shirt as he tries to balance. He's smaller than I thought, maybe 20 pounds, with a wiry frame that suggests he's been on his own for a while. The water turns brown almost immediately, swirling down the drain as I work shampoo through his fur, trying to be gentle around the bent ear and the places where his skin looks raw. He doesn't fight me, just stands there shivering, his eyes fixed on my face as if he's trying to decide whether to trust me. When I lift him out and wrap him in a towel, he lets out a long sigh, and I feel something in my chest respond, a small echo of relief I haven't felt in months. I dry him off as best I can, and when I set him down, he shakes once, hard, sending droplets across the bathroom tiles. His fur sticks up in uneven tufts, making him look smaller and younger, and he pads out into the living room, sniffing at the air as if testing whether this place is safe. When he curls up near the pile of unpacked boxes, I sit on the floor beside him, feeling my breath deepen for the first time in weeks. The apartment is still mostly empty, still unfamiliar, but with him here, it feels less like a waiting room and more like a place where something could actually happen. I don't plan to keep him, not officially, but something about the way he keeps glancing at me makes my chest loosen. He's watching, always watching, as if making sure I'm still here, still real. That night, I spread an old blanket on the floor near my mattress, thinking he'll sleep there, but he curls up directly on my shoes instead, his body forming a small, warm comma against the leather. I lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sound of his breathing, steady and soft, and I realize I'm not thinking about the divorce or the move or the endless quiet that's been following me. I'm just listening, just breathing, just here. As I turn off the lights that night, I sense the faintest pull towards something that feels like stability. It's not hope, not yet, but it's something, a thread, thin and fragile, connecting me to this moment instead of dragging me back into the weight of everything that came before. Days pass and he begins following me from room to room, his paws tapping softly on the floor like a steadying heartbeat. I start to recognize the rhythm of it, the way he moves from the bedroom to the kitchen, pausing in doorways to make sure I'm coming too. Morning sunlight filters through the blinds as he nudges my hand, nudging me out of bed when I'd normally lie there staring at the ceiling. His nose is cold and insistent, pressing against my palm until I sit up, and when I do, he wags his tail, a full-body motion that makes him wiggle from side to side. We start taking walks around the block, his curiosity pulling me into corners of Austin I wouldn't have explored alone. He stops to sniff every tree, every mailbox, every patch of grass, and I find myself slowing down, matching his pace, noticing things I would have walked past, The way the light hits the windows of the houses, the sound of wind chimes on someone's porch, the smell of jasmine blooming along a fence. He tugs gently at the makeshift leash I fashioned from an old belt, leading me down side streets and into small parks, and I let him, grateful for the direction. I start buying dog food, not just leftovers, telling myself it's temporary, but he curls up on my shoes every night. I buy a real collar, a leash, a bag of kibble that I pour into a mixing bowl because I don't have a proper dog dish yet. I tell the cashier at the pet store that I'm just watching him for a friend, but she smiles at me like she knows better, and I feel my face heat with something I can't quite name. Sometimes he rests his chin on my knee and something warm spreads through my chest, dissolving the fog little by little. It happens when I'm reading or sitting on the floor unpacking another box, or just staring out the window at the parking lot. He'll pad over, settle himself beside me, and rest his chin on my leg, his eyes half closed, his breathing slow and even. And in those moments, the tightness that's been wrapped around my ribs for months loosens just a little more. One evening, as he sits beside me on the porch watching the sunset, I feel a softness I haven't felt in months. The sky is streaked with orange and pink, the heat finally breaking as the sun dips below the skyline, and he's pressed against my leg, warm and solid and real. I reach down and scratch behind his ear, the good one, and he leans into my hand with a contentment that makes my throat ache. I don't know when it happened, but somewhere between the hallway and this moment, he stopped being a lost dog I found and became something else. Something mine. Something that matters. A storm hits Austin one afternoon, wind rattling the windows, and he grows anxious, pacing back and forth. The sky darkens fast, turning the apartment gray and dim, and thunder rolls across the horizon like a warning. He moves from the window to the door, back to the window, his nails clicking on the floor, his breathing quick and shallow. I can see the whites of his eyes, the way his ears flatten against his head, and I know that feeling, that sense of something coming that you can't control or stop. Instinctively, I reach down, letting him press his body against me as thunder rolls across the sky. He burrows into my side, trembling, and I wrap my arm around him, holding him steady. As I stroke his fur, something inside me finally cracks open. The pressure in my chest releases in a long, shaking breath. I didn't realize how tightly I'd been holding everything until now, until this moment when I'm focused entirely on keeping him calm, on being the steady thing he needs. I realize I'm not alone anymore. The apartment isn't empty, it's shared. It's not just a place I'm passing through or a space I'm trying to fill with boxes and routines. It's home because he's here, and because I've let him in, and because somewhere along the way I started caring about something other than my own survival. Tears rise without warning, but they feel cleansing rather than crushing. They come quietly, slipping down my cheeks as I sit there on the floor with him pressed against me, and I don't try to stop them. I just let them fall. When the storm softens, he leans his head into my hand, grounding me completely. The thunder fades to a distant rumble, the rain tapering off to a soft patter against the window, and he relaxes against me, his breathing slowing, his body going slack with exhaustion or relief. I stay there with him, stroking his fur, feeling the warmth of his small body, and I understand now what's happened. He didn't just find me in that hallway. He found a way through the fog I'd been lost in, a way back to something that feels like living. The next morning, the air is crisp and warm as I step outside with him trotting confidently at my side. The storm has washed everything clean, and the sunlight glints off puddles on the sidewalk, bright and sharp. We walk past the rows of houses, the skyline of Austin glowing gold in the early light, and I breathe in fully a deep, steady breath that feels like the first real one in a long time. He pauses, looks up at me, and I swear there's understanding in his eyes, as if he knows exactly what he's done for me. His tail wags slowly, deliberately, and he presses his nose against my hand, warm and soft. I kneel to scratch behind his ear, thanking him silently for choosing me that day in the hallway, for not running, for staying, for showing me that I could still care about something, still show up, still feel something other than the weight that had been crushing me for months. We continue walking toward a small park, the path opening wide ahead of us. The morning stretches out before us, full of possibility, and I realize I'm not afraid of it anymore. I'm not dreading the day or the silence or the empty hours. I'm just here, walking, with him beside me, and that's enough. If this story reached your heart, please subscribe, leave a comment, and share this video. It helps more than you know. And as I walk forward with him by my side, there's one truth I know for sure. I thought I was saving him, but he saved me.